friends, welcome to another video from Shomu's Biology. And in this video lecture we are going to cover antibody, right? What is antibody? What are the classes of antibody? And why do you call them antibody? And the different properties of antibody. Alright, so let's start talking about the antibody. So the very first thing that I want to talk about the antibody here is regarding these proteins, because antibody in very simple terms are proteins that are fighting against antigen. So antigens on the other sense is known as antibody generators. So basically any foreign component that comes in our body from bacteria or virus particles from outside which is foreign, our body produces specific protein molecules to fight against them, and those are antibodies. And we know that antibodies are produced by our immune system, both particularly in the adaptive mode of response, where specific antibody will kill and destroy the antigen or antigenic determinants. So let's try to understand the biochemistry of antibody for a while. Normally antibody, as I said, are proteins, right? They are protein molecules, and you probably have heard this term. The antibodies are also known as immunoglobulins. So you may ask yourself a question, what is immunoglobulin? Why they are called as immunoglobulin? The very first thing is that if you look at the serum electrophoresis, if you take the serum of our blood, if you take the serum of our body and simply run electrophoresis, what you will find out is that you will find this kind of graph. In this graph we have this x-axis, which is migratory distance, and in the y-axis we have absorbance. So with this x and y axis we can see that the absorbance of a particular spectrum, and this absorbance is highest for the protein albumin. This is the highest. And secondary things are that the rest of the proteins, they have less amount of absorbance, and the absorbance, if you look at the migratory distance, the albumins come really close, really fast, and afterwards the rest all are known as the part of globulins, where the migratory distance is far away from the start point here. So belong to this migratory distance, belong to this globulin family. So any protein that comes from this point of migratory distance to this point will be termed as globulin proteins. Now among those globulin proteins, the very first two peaks that you observe are termed as alpha globulin and beta globulin respectively. And last, if you look at the last spike, which gives a really huge spike, really higher absorbance than alpha and beta globulin, is also termed as a gamma globulin. And this gamma globulin family is ultimately known as the immunoglobulin family as well. They are known as immunoglobulin family. So immunoglobulin family, also known as gamma globulin, also has a higher absorption than alpha and beta globulin family proteins. This is the idea. So antibodies are located in the gamma globulin fraction of the serum electrophoresis data. Because they immunologically react with the antigen, they were given the name as immunoglobulin because they interact with the antigen. So this is the very simple idea of how we get to know about this gamma globulin. Now let's talk about the structure, the general overview structure of the antibody and its classifications. This picture I want you to see, and in this picture what you can see is that there are types of bonds present in this antibody, and this antibody looks like a Y-shaped structure. So whenever we want you to draw antibody, generally people draw it like this, like a Y, but the better way to draw it is something like this. This is how antibody is going to look like. Okay, this is how it looks like. Okay, so there are these two different sections. You can see that the large hand like this and the small hands like this. The large hands and small hands, or this is large is a heavy chain and this small will be light chain. Now if you look at this heavy chains, this is a heavy chain, this is another heavy chain, this is light chain, this is light chain. Now both this light chain and heavy chain are connected via specific bonds. Both these heavy chains are connected with specific bonds. Okay, so see, the light chains are connected with disulfide bonds. The hinge region is also disulfide bonds. So which bond is most important for holding the antibody structure? That is, remember, disulfide bond. Very important bond is disulfide bond. Keep it in your mind. Now if you look at the different classes of immunoglobulin, there are this 5 different important classes: IgG, IgA, IgM, IgD and IgE. These are the types of immunoglobulin that we are going to read. These are the immunoglobulins for which we are going to discuss about. Okay, so IgG means gamma, G for gamma, A for alpha, M for mu, D for delta, E for epsilon. So now let's move to the next slide to talk more about the process. Okay. So now I'll be talking about the variable and constant region that is present in the antibodies. Now as I told you that the antibodies are designed in a way that they are specific to bind with their antigen. So antigen antibody interactions are very specific. That means a lock and key fit. There's no way around. Okay, it's 100% fit. So how antibody can achieve that? If you look at the structure, except for this hinge and interactions of disulfide bonds and bridges, ignore them. Apart from that, even you can see even in the single light chain or heavy chain, there are also disulfide linkages. So disulfide linkages everywhere in the construction of any immunoglobulin. But what we intend to talk here is that there are two different sections you can see. This is the Y shaped and this is the, so if I draw it in the simplistic manner this, so this two portion or the mouth of the Y is known as FAB region and the bottom is known as FC region. FAB and FC. So now what we are going to see is that here we have in the light this section, okay, the section on the light as well as on the heavy as well as on the light, sorry, heavy as well as on the light. This region is known as a variable region. VH means variable heavy, VL means variable light. So the variable region means this portion, the protein sequence that we see in this portion can dramatically vary and modifies itself. By changing different amino acid sequences, they modify themselves and they are going to interact with different types of antigen by modifying themselves. That's the beauty about this variable region. Without variable region, there is no rule, there is no importance of antibodies without a variable region. Okay. And rest of the structures, if you look at here, this one in the blue color, this is known as constant region, means they don't modify themselves, they don't change themselves. So the variable region is where the antigen binding site is present. That's why the variability is very important. Now let's dig inside the variable region a little bit. Inside of variable region there are hyper variable region. So inside of the variable region there are some regions which are also known as hotspots that show relatively higher variability in the amino acid sequences, and they are known as hyper variable region, also known as complementarity determining region or CDRs. So if they ask you question what is hyper variable region, what is CDR, you know that. Now the site on the hyper variable regions that makes actual contact with the epitope of antigen is known as a paratope. So now let me give you this idea. Let's say this is a bacterial pathogenic site and this is the antibody that we carry. Okay, so this is the antigen. So let me change the color here a little bit, yellow. This is the antigenic site in yellow color, and what we are going to see in this blue color region are the portions of antibody that's going to interact. So what we are going to see is that this yellow colored section from the antigen is known as an epitope. Remember, epitope. And the part of the antibody that interacts with the epitope is known as paratope. Okay, so write down this terminology: epitope, paratope, hypervariable region and complementarity determining region, all are the part of this antigen antibody interactions. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Now we are going to look at another very interesting region that is known as hinge region. What is hinge? Remember I told you earlier that we have this two Y, right? They are connected together, and this is the region is known as the hinge region in the middle. Okay, the hinge region has two different disulfide structures together side by side holding the heavy chains together, and the light chains are connected to heavy chains via further sulfide disulfide interactions. Okay, so this hinge region has some property, means it is rich in proline and cysteine amino acids, and this region is quite flexible that allows the antibody to modify itself, to bend, flex itself, so that it can interact with the antigenic determinant properly. And this is also very sensitive to various kind of enzymatic digestions, and that's where CSIR NET GATE ask questions from. That's why I put it here in the first place. The hinge region is very sensitive to various enzymatic digestions. That's what we are going to study now. What are the type of digestions are out there? There are enzymes that can digest this hinge region, as a result of which it can separate the fragments of antibodies. And CSIR NET GATE ICMR, they ask questions regarding the use of enzymes to break down or digest antibody. So enzymatic digestion, there are three types: papain digestion, pepsin digestion, and mercaptoethanol reduction of this antibodies. So let's start with the papain digestion. What happens in papain digestion? So this is what happens in papain digestion. Remember, papain digestion results in 3 fragments, each having a sedimentation coefficient of 3.5s. 2 FAB fragments and 1 FC fragment. So basically this is the structure, and what papain does is that papain cleaves it. How? Papain cleaves it like this. So what's going to give us? It's going to give us 2 FAB portion. So these FAB portions are cleaved out from this side. So FAB, 2 FAB portions, and 1 FC region. FC region will be separated. So this is what papain produces: 2 FAB portion and 1 FC portion. Now if we use pepsin, then what pepsin does? Pepsin does a straight ahead cut from this side. So as a result of which it gives us what? Only FAB, only FAB. Remember, only 1 FAB fragment, a large bulkier FAB fragment, because this fragments is not separated, cannot be separated by pepsin. Okay, it can only be separated by papain. So many smaller fragments will be produced from FC. This basically FC region will be fragmented multiple times, small fragments, but one large chunk of fragment will be received, and that is actually 2 FAB together but in a single fragment. That is pepsin digestion. A single, remember that, pepsin, single FAB combined together. And the last one is ethyl, like mercaptoethanol reduction. So mercaptoethanol reduction, what it does is that it simply generates 4 fragments, 2H and 2L chains. So basically mercaptoethanol separates the heavy chains and light chains from each other. So the heavy chains will be separated, light chains will be separated. So one site is here, cleavage, second site is here. Okay, 2 large, 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains. H for heavy chains, L for light chains. Total 4 fragments will be separated. So in CSIR, NET, GATE or ICMR exams, they'll give you this example and they'll tell you that this is IgG. We are going to add, let's say, pepsin as well as mercaptoethanol. Then what we are going to get as a result of digestion? They can ask you direct questions like that, or they can give you a SDS page, or you can say that this is the SDS page, and after the digestion we load it into the SDS page. How the band pattern you are going to see in the SDS page. This kind of question they will also ask. They generally ask this type of questions. Let's move to the term valency. Another important property of this antibiotics, immunoglobulins, or antibodies, and we are going to talk about valencies right now. Okay, so what is the valency here? Okay, so what is valency? Let's talk about that. A valency, in very simple term, an antibody refers to the number of FAB fragments or FAB regions it possesses. Thus a simple monomeric antibody molecule has a valency of 2. So basically what valency is, it refers to the number of FAB regions it possesses. So in very simple terms, what we generally talk about, what we generally intend to discuss about is that this is what we talk about, right? This is what we talk about. So 2 regions, this is region 1, region 2. So what is the valency? Usually it's 2. For basic antibodies it's 2. Monomer shape for IgD, IgE, IgG, all these 3 antibodies generally present as a monomer. So all these IgD, IgE and IgG antibodies have a valency of 2. On the other hand, if an antibody is a dimer and generally present as a dimer, let's say this is one and this is second one and joined by a specific interaction. For example, IgA, which is an example of secretory antibody, they have a valency of 4 because 2 into 2, 4. Similarly, there is a pentamer of antibody that is also found, and this pentamer here is IgM, pentamer for IgM. So for IgM there are 5 different monomers linking together at a specific point. So 5 into 2, the valency will be 10. So a monomer immunoglobulin has a valency of 2, and so on. If we multiply the monomer into dimer, trimer, tetramer, pentamer in this case, the valency will dramatically increase and change itself. And now, what are the classes of antibodies that we used to talk about? Remember the immunoglobulin classes, we talked about 5 important ones. IgG, very common one that we generally discuss about. IgM, pentamer. IgA is a dimer. IgA is also known as secretory antibody. IgM, is responsible for complement fixation specifically, and rest of them, IgE is responsible for allergic reactions. Okay, IgD and IgG are the common types, both very common antibodies that are present. Okay, and remember, IgD is the default type that are present, and IgG is generally produced right after the infective agent infects us, and in the adaptive response IgG has more role to play over IgD. So let's now talk about some important features about this antibody, the classes features. So we have a property listed, and then we have 5 different antibodies name, and based on the different names we have different properties. We are going to talk about that. So property, if you look at usually form, in IgG is a monomer form, IgA also monomer or dimer form, IgM found is in monomer as well as pentamer form, D in monomer, E in monomer form. Okay, so A is only in the dimer form, M is in the pentamer form. That's it. Valency for IgG, monomer means 2, for IgA if it's dimer then 4, IgM if it's pentamer is 10, rest of them are 2. Other chains, in IgG no chain, IgA there is a J chain present that connects 2 IgA antibodies together in the secretory component. IgM there is J chain present to hold 5 antibodies together for complement fixation, and rest of them don't have any extra chains. What are the subclasses? You may or may not read it. Subclasses for IgG, there are 4 subclasses, G1, G2, G3, G4. For IgA there are 2 subclasses, A1 and A2, and rest of the other IgM, D and E, they don't have any subclasses yet. Half-life, that means in how many days 50% of them are present in the blood from the birth to the destroy. IgG has 23 days maximum half-life, IgA has 6 days, IgM 5 days, IgD 3 days, and IgE 2.5. So the short-lived antibody, most short-lived antibody is IgE, the most long-lived antibody is IgG. That's why we rely on G for a what? Secondary immune response. Okay, we use it for the secondary immune response. The intravascular distribution, IgG has 45% of it, IgA 42% of it, IgM is the default antibody, so it has 80% distribution, IgD has 75%, Ig has 50% distribution. For many organisms this amount varies, and depending upon the variance there are different situations originated. Complement activation, the classical pathway is activated by both IgG, IgM. Okay, and remember IgM is a pentameric, so they will do that. But alternative pathway is only activated by IgA. Remember that. The alternative complement pathway is only activated by IgA, but the traditional or classical pathway of complement can be activated by both here IgG and IgM. Placental transfer, which among this which antibody can transfer placental barrier from mother to the daughter or son? That is IgG. Okay, but most of these IgG like IgG1, IgG3, IgG4 except for IgG2. So if they ask you a question which subclass of immunoglobulin G cannot cross the placenta or the barrier, then the answer is IgG2. Mediates coagulation, IgG yes except G3, rest of them they don't help in coagulation. Mucosal transport, that means secretory mode or mucosal transport is only possible by IgA, not by any other immunoglobulin. So IgA is there to transfer through the mucosal membrane. Mast cell activation, which among these antibody activates mast cell? IgE. That's why we call it as a allergic reaction, or the antibody responsible for the allergic reaction, the major scale of allergic reaction. IgE can do that. So you can see that all this list, this particular table is very important because important features are mentioned, important classifications are mentioned. So that's what you need to remember for exam perspective. Now let's talk about some more properties and features, some more terminology: isotype, idiotype and allotype. What are they? So what is isotype in very simple terms? There are 5 classes of IgG and their subclasses are called as isotypes. Remember IgG, A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They vary from one another in the amino acid sequence of the constant region of their heavy chains. So basically the antibody of same type, IgG, so IgG, all of them are IgG, but they vary from each other in the amino acid sequence of the constant region. So the constant region means this is the place, We call it isotypic determinants, this region. Why? Because this is the region, or constant region is the place where the variance is present between the isotypes. Such variants are called as isotypes. So if you look at the isotypes have different heavy chains, they are representing classes of antibody. The heavy chains are different. You can see this is a totally black colored heavy, and this one is with the blue heavy chain, this one is the purple heavy chain. So they have different types of heavy chains out there. Now if you look at the second terminology, that is the idiotype and allotype, what are the difference between them? Okay, allotype and idiotype. See, the allotypes have the same constant region with minor but immunologic differences. Different individuals have different allotypes. So if you look at the allotype here, okay, you can see they are almost similar in both these cases, almost similar. Very similar constant region, but a little minor differences are observed between them. Okay, this is known as allotype. And so these are the differences. So in broad scale they are different. If you go backward, in the broad scale we call them isotypes. But now if you go to the miniature scale, then the allotypes are determinants present in the isotype genes in the constant region. In the constant region, if there are differences in the constant region, we call them allotype, and if the change is in the variable region, we call them idiotype. So idiotype changes are present in the paratope, that means in the variable region, while in allotype the changes are noticed in the constant region. Okay, so keep this thing in your mind, print it in your mind, so that you should not confuse all these things with yourselves. Okay, so this kinds of concludes our understanding of antibody. I believe we have a clear idea about what antibody is. We know they are proteins and how they form in the very first place. We've talked about the classes of antibodies, the different protein interactions that holds antibody structures together, and we have also talked about different classifications of the antibodies, IgA, D, E, B, G, and D, A, B, G, and we have also talked about how exactly what are the features of this different kind of antibodies, and we have talked about the isotype, allotype and idiotypes of antibody. So this is regarding antibody structures and function. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to this channel to get more videos like that in future. Thank you. Bye.